On today's episode of Speak Shame with Dr. Connie.
We were both very young, 18, we were children, and I ended up getting pregnant and I didn't know what to do. I grew up in a family that was Southern Baptist on one side and generational Catholic on the other side. Abortion was not something that was talked about. I just remember crawling up on the couch with my grandma and I was like, I think I want to have an abortion. So she was like, it's okay, I support you.
Hello, remarkable woman. I'm your host, Dr. Connie, medical doctor, life coach, and survivor of sexual violence, and you're listening to Speak Shame, a collection of inspiring conversations with remarkable women who have faced and overcome adversity. By sharing their stories, my hope is that you may find strength, connection, and hope in your own journey, and that shame itself loses its power. So sit back, relax, and don't forget to follow the show. Joining me on this week's episode of Speak Shame is the remarkable Gabby Long. Gabby is a reproductive rights advocate, mother, and healthcare storyteller. As the outreach organiser and patient advocate for A Woman's Choice, an independent abortion provider with clinics in Florida, North Carolina, and Virginia, she plays a crucial role in providing support and resources to individuals seeking reproductive health services. Having had her own abortion, she carries her personal experience with her to guarantee that patients receive the highest quality care. With her strong commitment to women's rights and access to healthcare, Gabby specialises in navigating the complexities of reproductive options, ensuring that abortion seekers receive accurate information and compassionate care. Gabby has always been active in her community. She is currently a member of the National Leadership Society, We Testify, and Floridians Protecting Freedoms Coalition. Gabby is dedicated to fostering a supportive environment for those in need, empowering individuals to make informed choices, promoting a broader understanding of reproductive health issues, advocating for safe and accessible healthcare for all. So thank you so much, Gabby, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for my introduction. It was quite swanky. Thank you.
That's always going for swanky here. It's a pleasure to have you, and I want to just kick things off, as I do with all my amazing guests, just to try and find out a bit more about you. But instead of just going straight in and being like, tell me about yourself, I want to ask you this. If your life story was turned into a book, describe for me what would happen in chapter 1.
Oh God, where do we start? That would actually be the title. So we would probably start with my roots, going back to where we came from. I grew up in Central Florida, which is horse country. We're the horse capital of the world. My grandparents were activists on my dad's side of the family. And on my other side of the family, they were horse trainers, very much into like equine health, artificial insemination, stuff like that. So I've had a very interesting beginning into the world. And it's very cool to see both sides of growing up because I am a mixed kid. So I get to see both sides of living in the South of being a mixed kid. So it would probably definitely be where did we start or where would we start would be the first chapter.
I love that beginning there. I can just envision it as well. And I wonder if you could talk me through your journey from those early days of your childhood all the way through to actually where you are now. What's led you to the amazing work that you're doing at the moment?
I grew up, like I said, I have one side of the family is activists. A lot of them are healthcare workers or they joined the military. So I have a lot of military roots in there as well. So that was very interesting to grow up with. You have farm strict and then you have military strict, which is very two different things. And also on top of that, I am the oldest of 7. So I also, growing up in a military family, if you're the oldest, you are the leader and you set the example. So I felt like growing up, I had a lot on my shoulders and that I really needed to set the way for my siblings. There's a 9-year difference between me and the youngest set. I'll be 29 this year and they just turned 20. So there is quite a jump there. I remember having a crucial conversation with my dad. And my dad's a very hard man. He just retired from the Marine Corps. And I remember him telling me that people in our family have fought to be where they are at. They have fought to have a right to vote. They have fought to express their freedoms. And I didn't really understand it because I was really young at the time. And I was like, I don't care about this. I'm going to go play outside. I want to ride my pony. Like, I want to go swimming. I don't want to talk about voting or anything. But for some reason, that conversation stuck with me. And I started to really think about conversations that I heard my parents having and members of my family having. And it was they were struggling to pay bills. They were struggling to keep the lights on sometimes. We were on food stamps on my mom's side of the family. And I also saw on the other side of my family who had money, the things that they complained about with the legislation and government. And it really piqued my interest. So I started to volunteer at our local animal shelter because I was like, well, if we want to make a change somewhere, we got to start somewhere. So I started out in animal advocacy very, very young, probably 10. And I volunteered there at the Marion County Animal Shelter for probably about 2 years. And then I moved to Orange Park, Florida. And I met my best friend at the time. She's still my best friend today. We've been best friends forever and we'll hopefully be best friends forever. But then we started volunteering at the VA together because she also had military roots. And we really got a different perspective on how privileged we were and how fortunate we were to be able to live in a place where we had food on the table. Yeah, our moms were struggling a little bit, but we still had everything that we needed. We had a roof over our head. We had healthcare. We didn't have to worry about really where our next meal came from. And that bothered me because it shouldn't have just been an us kind of thing. I felt like everybody should have had that kind of access. So as the years went on, I still volunteered. When I was 15, I ended up moving in with my dad and I kind of slowed down on my volunteer stuff because I was really like locked into school, really focusing on trying to get scholarships, really pushing like my band stuff. During that time, boys were not a thing to me. I didn't really care about boys that much. Of course, I had a high school boyfriend at one point. Most girls do when they're in high school because that's the thing. You're looked down upon. You're shamed if you don't have a boyfriend. If you're not kissing somebody, that's a problem. But that's not really what I cared about. I really wanted to graduate. I wanted to graduate on time because that was a fear that I wouldn't graduate on time. And I wanted to make my dad proud and I wanted to make my family proud. Everybody had worked to get to where they are at. And I wanted to show my family that I was going to be even better than what they worked towards. And that was like 10 years ago now. So it was such a long time ago. And I remember when I graduated high school, I was all set up to go to college in Louisiana. I was supposed to go to Southeastern University. And I just decided that I was not ready for college and I moved back to Florida. I moved in with my grandma and I ended up getting hooked up with a guy that I had known in junior high, so middle school. And being young and dumb, you're like, yeah, I'm going to be with this person forever. I love him. Yes, this is the man for me forever. That was not the case, girl. I was so wrong and so dumb. And I appreciate myself being dumb because that's kind of what led me into the abortion world. So unfortunately, I ended up getting pregnant by this boy. We'll call him a boy because that's what he was at the time. Is we were both very young, 18. We were children. And I ended up getting pregnant and I didn't know what to do. I grew up in a family that was Southern Baptist on one side and generational Catholic on the other side. Even though we have healthcare workers in our family, abortion was not something that was talked about or spoken about. Pregnancy wasn't spoken about. We knew how it happened, but the unspoken rule of thumb was you better not come home pregnant. You're going to be digging a hole in the backyard if you are, and it's because you're going to be in the hole kind of situation. And that's just the way that it was. And I never really got like a true official like sex education talk from either of my parents. My mom told me essentially the story of if you kiss a boy, like you'll end up getting pregnant, which we know is not the truth. So my sex education came from my friends, teenagers, which is not accurate information because we're all figuring it out at the same time. So not really information that I would have wanted to carry with me into adulthood. But I remember just being so confused and just lost and I didn't know what to do. And at first I really didn't have support. Fortunately, I spoke up to my grandmother on my mom's side of the family. I call her my Nana. And she decided to tell me that she used to work back in the Jane movement, back before Roe v. Wade was even a thing. She used to drive people in her community from Pennsylvania up to New York to help them access care. And this is pre-Roe v. Wade, so it was very hush-hush, very secret at the time. So just was very dumbfounded when she told me this, because this is my Catholic grandmother. Like, abortion is not a thing. Like, I remember going to mass, and they very frequently, children are a gift. We are blessed when we have children. So I was very surprised to hear her tell me this. And with all of my pregnancies, I've had HG. So at first, I did have a lot of religious guilt, and I was doing oh, God is going to smite me. I'm going to hell. Like, how can I make this decision? Da 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 da. And I think it was after the 7th week of throwing up, I finally was like, oh, fuck this. I'm so done. So I crawled up. I remember one night I legit threw up all night long. And this was after like being in and out of the hospital, being hooked up on IVs, because when you have HG, like you cannot keep anything down, not foods, fluids, anything. And the last time I had went into the hospital, they're like, your kidneys are shutting down, your ketones are out of whack. You need to figure something out. Like, have you considered abortion? Me offended that they even mentioned that to me, because again, never spoke about abortion. The perspective that I did have was abortion is wrong. So I just immediately shut it down. And after, like I said, that night that I quite literally threw up all night, I just remember crawling up on the couch with my grandma, and I was like, I think I want to have an abortion. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm 18 years old. Like, why would I want to do this at 18? And this is my whole life. Like, this is every time I get pregnant. Like, I don't want to do this. So she was like, it's okay. I support you. We had our conversation. And the next morning, I was calling every place that I could find that I thought was an abortion clinic. And unfortunately, a lot of the places I called were pregnancy crisis centers. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term, but they are typically government-funded agencies that hide under the guise of religion. And they say that they offer healthcare, like free healthcare to women, but they really don't. Like, they will trap patients in their clinics to try to sway them away from abortion. And a lot of the propaganda that they push out is religious-based. I have had patients come to me within my own job with ultrasounds that they have gotten at pregnancy crisis centers, and it's a full-fledged baby on the ultrasound waving at them saying, "Hi, Mom." We know that that is not what ultrasounds look like. And unfortunately, people who don't know these things, they are fooled by this. And it's heartbreaking, because in the South of America, or Southeast of America, a lot of the states have either total abortion bans or 6-week bans. They have some sort of mandatory waiting period. So this just delays patient care. And for me, this is pre-Roe v. Wade. This is the overturn. This is back in 2016. So very fortunate at this time to be able to have this access to care. When I finally did find a clinic, it was in my hometown, which I was very shocked and surprised about. When I got there, you had to be buzzed into the facility. Essentially, it felt like you were going into a jail, and that was just so the workers were protected from the protesters outside, because they're very ornery in Central Florida. That is where a lot of the Trumper thumpers are. They're very Texas-like in Central Florida. It's a very nice comparison to give them. So they have the facility like this, though, to protect their workers. And me at the time, having no idea what abortion is like, was very put off by this. And I can now, working in the field, I can only imagine other patients going into a facility that look like that. And you're like, damn, I thought I was going in to get my abortion. This is not the case. So while I was at the facility, Florida did have a mandated 24-hour waiting period at the time. It was the first time that they had the 24-hour waiting period, and it was before they had an injunction in place. So I had to go in for a consultation, speak with a doctor. They had to read a mandated state script to me, just essentially stating, like, I knew what I was doing. I knew the decision I was making. And da 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 da. And the only thing that ever stood out to me was there was a form that I filled out, and I remember a question on there that asked if the father knew. And I remember being so scared to put no on that piece of paper, because I thought that if I put no, that determined if I was going to get my abortion or not. And I knew that I did not want to have a child with that man. So I remember I put yes on there. I had my consult, and then the clinic that I had went to, they only did in-clinic procedures up to 8 weeks at the time. So I had to go down to Tampa, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours from where I grew up. And that's where I received my actual abortion at. And it was about 3-4 days later from having my essential consult. So by the time I had my abortion, I was pushing 13 weeks, which is not that far. You're still like, you're fresh going into the second trimester. But I remember before I had my abortion, an altercation my grandma had with one of the protesters outside of the clinic in Tampa. And she got really upset. There was only one guy that was out there and he was doing that. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're going to kill your baby, da 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 da. My grandma was like, you don't know who she is. You don't know what she's going through. Like, you just need to leave her alone and just go about your day. And I was very surprised because my grandma, very Catholic, very closed mouth, women are seen, not heard kind of situation. So to see her as upset as I saw her, I was very shocked by that. So I was fortunate. I had my abortion. I went home, got up the next day, was able to resume normal activity, went back to normal life, broke up with the boy, life moved on. Fast forward to 2021. Around there is when I had started to hear things like on the news about her current president, all of those kinds of things. And I just had my first child. He's 5 now. So I was really concerned as a mom, wanted to make sure that the world I was leaving to him was going to be even better than it was left to me kind of situation. And I just really wanted to get involved in the community. And I just really I felt that it was even more important at that time to be involved than what it was when I was a kid. Because now I'm an adult and I can actually make change. When you're a kid, they don't want to listen to you. Kids don't know anything. They think that children know nothing and we just don't care about what's going on in the world when we're growing up in it and we're going to have to make decisions one day. So I remember I was also looking for jobs and I had stumbled across a Woman's Choice, which is where I work now. And I had applied for their patient navigator position. And I thought the interview went well. For it being an abortion clinic, they do a lot of background research on folks. They want to vet the people before they bring them in because they want to make sure they're safe. Because they want to make sure patients are not going to be put in a situation that they definitely should not have to be put in. So it was about a 3-week process, and I finally heard back from them. They were like, we would love to bring you onto the team. And I was like, this is great. Awesome. So when I essentially started in the abortion world care-wise, I was helping patients find funds, like financial funds for their abortion procedure, also helping them with logistical support to help eliminate any barriers that they would have getting to the clinic. They would say something, cool, let me find a way to knock that barrier down. Like, this is what I love to do. I did it for about 9 months, ironically. That's always what I say. It's just ironic. But I did it for about 9 months. And then I was promoted to our hotline director position. And then from there, Florida ran the Amendment 4 campaign, which I was very fortunate to work on. That just really opened my world to advocacy. And it really showed a side of government that I really wanted to be on. It made me feel fulfilled in a way that I had never felt fulfilled before, like with working at any type of job. And it didn't even feel like a job. It felt like I had found my place in the world. So I worked on the Amendment 4 campaign. I worked a little bit on the Amendment 3 campaign, which that was for marijuana in Florida. Amendment 4 was we were trying to get abortion rights established back in the state of Florida. Unfortunately, we did not get it passed, and it wasn't because we didn't have the people. It was because the state caused enough confusion, just enough confusion that we weren't able to meet the 60% threshold that Florida requires. So for any ballot or for any amendments to get passed in Florida, they have to be 60%, which very funnily, when they passed that back in the day, that didn't even reach 60%. So it's very hard to get things passed in Florida, and they have such a crazy governor down there. He has done everything he can to essentially eliminate woke culture is what they call it. And it has affected everybody. It's affected our veterans, our healthcare workers, not just abortion workers, but healthcare workers across the board. We have a doctor shortage down there. Again, it's not just abortion, it's every health sector because nobody feels safe anymore in Florida. Folks are afraid they're going to lose their license. People are dropping out of school and are leaving the state to attend university and other places because the governor has just taken over our state in such a hostile way that it's not safe for anybody anymore. And I know other states have worked also trying to get abortion passed, thankfully, because it has created sanctuary cities for folks, and it has made it to where places that do have abortion access in the Southeast are not essentially overrun with patients, because when the entire Southeast decided to make the decision about abortion access, it affected everybody else very much in a negative way because that meant folks in the Southeastern states had to travel even further for access to that care. And it should bother people because anybody should be able to access any type of healthcare by walking. It should be able to, just the way you can go to the dentist, you should be able to access any type of healthcare. We shouldn't have these healthcare deserts that they talk about. It shouldn't be the way that it is. In school, we can go back to our history books. They talked about how medicine was so hard to come by back in the day, and we developed our technology so people had access to care. They could live longer, and again, not just abortion care, but healthcare across the board in a general spectrum. And now it's, oh, I have healthcare and you don't. Haha, look at me. I'm more privileged because I have healthcare and you don't. And that's wrong. People should have the basic needs that they need to survive. And that's something that I also carry with me because we should have these things. It's humanity.
Absolutely. And I think just going through your story, your own experience, and thankfully the support that you had, you said from your nana as well, and learning a bit about her story as well, because we never know what other people's experiences are. So having that experience, having that support, and then fast forward to be able to then assist others and knowing from your own experience, probably being able to bring that. I'm so grateful for the work that you do and also for sharing your story as well. I really appreciate that. There are a few things that I wanted to pick out, and one in particular you mentioned was HG. And for people that maybe don't know what that is, if you could talk a little bit more about that.
HG, that's my fault because that's the slang term for it. But the scientific term is hyperemesis gravideum. Most folks are familiar with it because of Kate Middleton. She had it with her pregnancies. That's why she disappears when she's pregnant, because she's also hooked up to a bunch of machines. But essentially, it is morning sickness times 10. You are constantly throwing up. Like I said, you cannot keep anything down. Traditional morning sickness medications do not work. Back with my first pregnancy, even with having health insurance, and at the time I had TRICARE, which is military insurance, essentially usually really good. The medication that would have helped me at the time was $500 per 30-day prescription. I was an 18, 19-year-old dumb little kid at the time, so I didn't have $500 every 30 days to spend on a medication. And that also did partake in my decision for my abortion, because if I couldn't financially afford a medication, how could I financially take care of a kid at the time? I wanted to be able to parent when I was ready to be a parent, and I could make appropriate decisions for my child. And I knew that I wouldn't. If, like I said, if I couldn't afford the medication, how could I afford a pack of diapers for my child, or formula, or clothes, or getting them ready for school? Children are expensive. They are very expensive. My 5-year-old just started kindergarten. We had to get all of the things for school. And I was like, oh my gosh, I understand it now. Now I know why my parents complain. Like, you're growing again. I just bought you clothes. What do you mean these don't fit? Kind of thing. So I get it. But I feel like having children is a very big commitment. It's a lifetime commitment, not an 18-year commitment like some people like to say. It is a lifetime commitment. And people should be able to parent when they're ready to parent. And we have such a problem with kids being stuck in the system. I was a kid at one point in the system. I don't want my children to be in the system, and I don't want anybody else's children to be in the system. That's hard. And that leaves long lasting scars on people. It causes trauma. And we have multiple generations that are dealing with generational trauma and within their own trauma, and they're trying to stop it. So why would I want to add a kid into my family or into my life when I wasn't done fixing my own trauma? So there's a lot of things that partake. And again, like, we don't even have to say all that. It could be as simple as, I'm not ready to be a parent, or it's none of your business. You don't even have to go into all that. And that's what I love about advocacy and speaking about abortion and healthcare and all of this work, is because it doesn't matter. It's your decision. It's your body. It's your healthcare. It's nobody else's business except those you decide to involve in your decisions.
Love that. I think it's such an important point to make. And it leads me on really to my next question, because I'm thinking about all the people who maybe are listening to this episode, who maybe are going through something similar to you when you were 18 and not knowing what to do. What advice would you give to either your younger self or to anyone who maybe is going through something like this?
That's my favorite question so far. Honestly, it's okay to feel what you feel. I wish I could go back to myself when I was 18, 19 years old and say, it's okay to have these feelings. It's okay to feel lost. It's okay to not really understand what's going on, especially if you don't have the education behind it. I speak to patients every single day about their situations, and it's okay to feel what they're going through. You're allowed to have all of the feelings that you're having. And yes, folks are still getting an abortion, but they are also still pregnant. And people forget that they are going to have those pregnancy hormones. Yes, they're still getting an abortion, but their bodies are still altering to a pregnancy that they will be ending soon. So it's okay to feel your feelings, and it's okay that it can take a long time. I feel that I did not heal from my first abortion until I found my We Testify community. Or should I say they found me? I was at a conference a couple years ago and I had saw that they had a panel for storytellers and I was very interested. I was like, whoa, other people that have had abortions and at an abortion conference, this is great. So I was able to go in and I was able to listen to some folks share their stories. And about a year later, I got a call from Kenya offering me to go to one of their retreats. And it was at that retreat that I really felt my community. I really felt like I found a place that I belong. And that's hard for a lot of people because when you don't have community, it sucks. It really sucks. So I'll always be fortunate. I will always be grateful and always be privileged to have found that community because it can be hard when you don't have that. And it's hard for folks that don't have support. So the best advice that I can give people is you're never alone. There are people out there for you. And even if they don't find you, sometimes you got to do the work to find them. But when you find that community, it is like the best hug. It's like that warm mom hug that everybody should have growing up. And it's life changing. I really felt healed by We Testify. And I see I could feel obviously I feel my tears, but I'm getting a little emotional because it it really was life-changing to be able to find that community because I did feel lost and I did have the religious guilt even after working with my company that I work for now because I work with these folks. They are my community, but they also have not gone through the same things that I have gone through. So being able to find people that have gone through very similar things, that is where that real connection is. And that is I feel like that is one of the big things that We Testify talks about with having community and eliminating that stigma because I had a stigma on myself. And then I go to retreat and I see like-minded folks, people that have been through similar situations as me. And it's like, wow, I'm not alone. There's hundreds of women out here that have gone through this. There's thousands of people that are out here that have gone through this. And it is such a wonderful thing when you can see other people, essentially building the community within. It's very life-changing.
I can see how much they mean to you, honestly. And I think you've really hit the nail on the head. The importance of community, a place where you can be seen, you can be heard, no judgments, people listen with empathy. That's so important. I will make sure I put in the show notes the link to We Testify. And I wondered how your lived experience has connected you to women who you come across in your day-to-day work. How has that changed how you work?
Honestly, it's very much helped. I recently, within this past year, have found out that I have a genetic defect to where I metabolize medication a lot faster than what I'm supposed to. And it has answered the lifetime of questions that I've had about my body and a lot of issues that I've had. And fortunately, I'm very privileged to have a doctor that will listen to me. Being a person of color and living in the South, you don't get a lot of doctors that, have good bedside manner that will listen to you. It's a lot of times, oh, you just need to lose weight. You just need to lose weight. That's what the issue is. You just need to lose weight. I've heard that my entire life. I've lost all the weight and I'm still hearing that I need to lose more weight and nothing has changed. So, I have a doctor now that I've been working with and she has been exceptional. She has been so great. And because of this genetic defect, I have had a lot of abortions. And even saying that can be off-putting to people, and I have no shame about it. I have a health condition. It is not something that is my fault. And again, that's nobody else's business. However, with this genetic defect, I have been fortunate enough to be able to experience self-managed abortions. I've been able to experience in-clinic pill medication abortions and procedural abortions. So I've experienced kind of the range of spectrum of abortion care. I love being able to self-manage because I can be at home, I can be in my own space, I can be comfortable, I can be next to my partner who is super supportive, and I can just be in my own space, which is where I essentially love to be. However, not everybody has that opportunity. And I feel like it helps me work closer with our patients, especially when they're unsure of the procedure that they want to go through. It's very different when you can talk to somebody who has experienced the procedures versus somebody who's reading our clinic policies. That's very different for people. I very much enjoy being able to sit in our recovery room with our patients before they go into their procedure and afterwards. It's lovely to be able to see them to connect with each other because even the short time that they're there in that room, they still are building a community with each other. Same with our medication patients. They're all in a room together as well, which is normal within abortion clinics, especially independent clinics within that group setting. They even build community within themselves. So it makes it easier to connect with patients. You have more humanity. It puts a face to it. It makes it easier for them because now they have somebody that they can speak to that has experienced something that they are about to go through. And people are emotional, which is normal. It's okay. Like I said earlier, it's okay to feel the feelings that you feel when you are going through an abortion. It is okay. It is not an easy decision. It is a very heavy decision. It's a life-changing decision. However, it's also a decision that can help people grow and put them in a position to change their lives and put them in a position to where they can expand and reach something that may have not been attainable to them before. We hear all the time, she did it. She worked 2 jobs. She's got 2 kids at home. She's a single mom. She's doing all the things. That shouldn't be the way. That shouldn't be the case. Women shouldn't have to work 2 jobs to sustain their household and do it alone. We hear all the time it takes a community, but then especially within people of color or the BIPOC community, they're expected at this point to do it alone, and that should not be the case. So I'm glad that I've had my abortions. I have never regretted a single one of them, and I will never regret any other ones that I may or may not have because it has helped me not only in my work, but it has also helped me see an entire different side of something that, again, that is very life changing and it can help you branch off into another sector of your life and just push you forward towards something that you may not have been able to reach before.
So beautifully said. And I just think of all those people who work with you or have come across you are probably so grateful to have you there by their side. And thank you also for talking about the different types of abortion for people who don't know as well. I think that's really useful to know that there are these options. So obviously, I think that's really helpful as well. And I wonder if there's anything that comes to mind that you're like, I really wanted to talk about that. There was something I really wanted to say about this particular area.
Yeah. Well, I guess I didn't really touch on it, but mutual aid is becoming such a big thing here. And I think it's very important. I am in the process of starting period pantries at our locations, our Greensboro and our Raleigh locations, just as a start to kind of help offset one period poverty, but also making a place for folks to have access and know that is a safe place for them to access. There is a lot of things that are happening in the United States right now that definitely should not be happening. Healthcare is being restricted left and right. People are being let off, let go from jobs left and right that we need in our healthcare services. And it is now more important than ever that people are voting. People are building their communities. They are doing mutual aid because that is the only way that we are going to make a difference and we are ever going to see change. It's very scary to live in the United States right now because we have essentially a leader that is not a leader. They're on their own one-track agenda and they don't care about the people. The same people that elected them in office, they don't care about us. And I feel people should really, really get to the polls and they should definitely be voting. And they should not be voting on if they're registered Republican or Democrat or socialist or liberal or whatever their party is. They should be researching these people that they're voting because these are the same people that are making life altering changes for the rest of us. And it is so important that we just get out and vote, especially the younger folks. I hear all the time, my vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's never going to be any change. But for every person I have heard that from, and every person that says that, if they would just get to the polls, it would make such a difference.
That is so key. And I'm going to underscore all of that and just put it in bold in the show notes as well. That's such an important point, and these decisions impact everyone, and unfortunately, people are experiencing that at the moment. So, thank you for mentioning that. And what would you say is one thing that you hope listeners will take away from your story?
That you're not alone. It's okay to feel whatever feelings that you're feeling. It's okay to feel the lack thereof, but you're not alone. There are people out there. There are people that will support you. Community is the best thing that you can find out there. And also get out there and vote and donate to your local abortion funds.
Yes, beautifully said. And finally, if you had to name one remarkable woman who inspires you or who has inspired you, who would it be and why?
I really can't answer that question. There's so many, I work with so many amazing people. I can't answer that question genuinely because I work with so many amazing women, people, they have inspired me to continue the work. My leadership team, Kenya, We Testify, the folks that I worked with on the Amendment 4 campaign, every single one of them are all fighting to make such an impactful change for the future, for our children that are here now we are going to leave the world to. So that is such a hard question that I cannot answer because I'm surrounded by women that have impacted my decision making, that have changed my life, that have been mother figures to me. I mean, I really genuinely cannot answer that
No,
one.
you have answered it. You've answered it. And it seems that you truly are surrounded by amazing, amazing women. So thank you to all of those women. But most importantly, thank you to you, Gabby. It's been my absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me today. It's been amazing and it's been such a wonder speaking to you. And thank you for letting me yap to you.
Thank you for listening to Speak Shame with Dr. Connie Karani. And thank you so much to Gabby Long for being my guest on this week's show. Please take a look at the show notes for information on We Testify's social media handles so that you can connect with them. If you'd like to join the community, head over to @DrConnieKarali on Instagram. If you're a remarkable woman who has been silenced by shame and you're ready to reclaim your voice, then join me at my next free Shame Resilience workshop. You'll find the booking link in the show notes. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to get a new episode every other Thursday. Until next time, take care.